Okay, today we're in section 1.4, comparing and ordering integers. Okay, does anybody know what an integer is without cheating and looking in your book? Anybody know? Integer, not integer, integer, okay, integer. An integer is a whole number, okay? It's a whole number. So you need to know that, yes. So we've got two kinds of integers, positive and negative. All right, positive integers are greater than 0, negative are less than 0. So 0 is kind of our benchmark, okay? So anything less than 0 or to the left on the number line, that's going to be negative. And then, okay, so then your absolute value, okay, so now absolute value doesn't have to do with the sign as much as just how many units it is away from 0. Okay, so it's not positive or negative, it's just we're counting how many units it is away from 0. All right, so example 1. In example 1, I'm graphing and ordering integers. So I'm going to work on a number line. Now I will tell you this, most of the time when you're working on a number line, you're going to label them either by 5s or 10s. In this example, in the first one, the way I figure it out is I look at what is the largest number. So what's the largest number in the first set?
54.
What's the largest number? 15. What's the smallest number?
54.
Negative 54. So since that's a really big gap, I'm going to go by 10s. Because if I go by 5s, that number line is going to be really, really long. Okay? Does that make sense? Now, if it's a smaller gap of numbers, I want to go by a smaller interval so my points aren't all jammed together. All right? So let's go ahead and set up a number line for this number set. We want to start, why did I start at 20? Why did I start at 20?
Because that's the rounded up version.
Yeah, it's just, I want to go a little bit higher than my highest value. Okay, so I start at 20 and I work my way down. I already wrote it. Okay, so go ahead and set up your number line, and it's the beauty of using an iPad, huh? Set up your number line and plot your points on your number line. So now that we have graphed them on the number line, all of our points, we're going to now list our numbers least to greatest. So negative 54, we're going to separate them by commas. Negative 35. And as long as we plotted them right on our number line, we can just kind of go right down the row. Negative 19, negative 2, 7, 15, and that's it. Okay? And there I've listed my numbers from least to greatest. So on your homework tonight, that's what it asks you to do. Plot them on a number line and then list them least to greatest. All right? Are y'all good if I just show you the next one? You don't have to do it on your notes? Okay, you think you get the point? All right. Okay, so let's look at the next one then together. Just look up here on the screen. Okay, so here's my number line. They're kind of all bunched together right here, and then we got negative 47 way down there by itself. All right, so everybody together, go ahead and tell me the numbers from least to greatest. Let's list them. From least to greatest, we've got negative 47, negative 13, 0, and 14. Okay? All right, so again, this is what your homework problems are going to ask you to do tonight. All right, so that's it for example 1. Now, in example 2, we're coming back to that concept of absolute value. Okay, so the absolute value of a number is the number without its sign. Okay, here we are. Example 2. Okay. All right, so finding absolute value. So negative 5, all right, well, if it's the value without a sign, it's just going to be 5. And the same thing with 14. Well, 14 technically is positive. When I'm thinking about it in terms of absolute value, I just want to know how many units is it away from 0, so it's just 14. So it's the number without a sign. Go ahead and do C through F. All right, so negative 8 would be just 8. 0, is 0. Negative 13? 13. And 18 is 18. Now, in a problem, and we'll see this in the last example, but I just want to introduce you to it now. In a problem, we see absolute value written like this, and this is what we call the absolute value bars, okay? So whenever you see these bars on either side of a number, that means that you're taking the absolute value of that number. And you've got to do that before you evaluate any other part of the expression. So absolute value of negative 10 is what? Is 10, okay? And we'll expand more on that in just a minute. But for now, I want you to learn the absolute value bars, okay, tell me to take the absolute value. All right, now let's look at example 3, finding opposites. When we're finding opposites, we're thinking of it in terms of the number line, okay? So on the opposite side of 0, what number is exactly the same number of units away? So for 6, it would be negative 6. For negative 23, it would be positive 23. You say, well, Miss Skinner, that's pretty easy. Okay, yes, you can think of it like that. But what I want you to understand is we're talking in terms of, okay, it's the exact same distance away from 0, just on the other side of 0. Okay, so I do want you to understand that concept. What's the opposite of 46? Negative 46. 72?
Negative 70.
Good. Negative 18?
Positive 8.
And negative 6? Positive 6. Very good. All right, so now, last example. This is probably definitely the most difficult and also one of the more important examples. I'm going to teach you a concept called the double negative. All right, what I'm talking about is whenever you see two negative signs in front of a number, here's my rule. It automatically changes to a positive, that number, okay? So anytime I see two negative signs in front of a number, it automatically changes its value to a positive. All right, and I separate a double negative using parentheses. Okay, so all that to say, let's look at example A. All right, it says evaluate negative y when y equals negative 5. All right, well, a negative is already in the expression. So when I plug in a negative 5, it makes it a double negative. And we just said a double negative equals a positive. So my answer is just 5. And you don't have to write the positive sign. It's just understood. Okay, so double negative cancels into a positive. Now in B, what do you see there? What do you see? What are these called? The absolute value bars, okay? So now I have 17 minus the absolute value of negative 5. This is not a double negative. I have to first take the absolute value of negative 5. What's the absolute value of negative 5? Just 5. And so when I bring that down, I get 17 minus 5, which gives me 12. Okay, I just bring down my subtraction sign. So anytime you see an expression that deals with absolute value, make sure you take absolute value first and then evaluate the rest of the expression. What about C? Negative y plus 10. All right, go ahead and try to solve that one on your own. All right, so Eric, what'd you get?
15.
Do you agree?
Yes.
Because a double negative 5 changes to a positive 5, and it's just 15. Who got it right? 15. Awesome. Good job, guys. Okay, so now I want you to do checkpoint. Okay, and turn back in your books to, let's see, we're on page 23. Page 23 in our books. This is how I want you to set up numbers 2 through 5. You're going to label. You're going to write the original problem. You're going to label, this is my absolute value and my opposite value. All right, and do that for numbers 2 through 5. Okay, so the absolute value of 3 is?
Negative 3.
No, absolute value. 3. And then the opposite is? Negative 3. And that's kind of why I want you guys to set it up like this on your homework. So that way when the person that's grading it, you don't say, oh, well, I did my opposite value first and then my absolute. So this way, it's very clear. You're saying absolute value is 3, opposite value is negative 3. Okay? So on your homework, make sure you identify. This one's my absolute value, this one's my opposite value. All right, so number 3, what's the absolute value of -1? Just 1. What's the opposite? 1. What about 10? Absolute value is 10. Opposite value? -10. Number 11, absolute value, or number 5? 11 and 11. Very good. Okay, so absolute and opposite. Again, we're dealing with how many units it is away from 0. All right, now I want you to turn the page. Okay, and now we're going to do 4 more problems like example 4 that we just did. When x equals -4 now, I want you to solve these 4 expressions. Solve these 4. All right, so when I plug in my values, I plug in a -4 where there's already a negative x, it becomes a double negative, so that is positive. All right, now on your homework, I want to see that step, guys. I want to see the substitution, so make sure you include that. Then on number 7, we have 12 minus the absolute value of -4. Okay, so that is not a double negative. You've got to now take the absolute value of 4, and that makes it 12 minus 4, which is 8. All right, now in the third one, again, absolute value of -4 plus 9. So that makes it 4 plus 9, which is 13. Getting fancy with my colors. All right, and then number 9, absolute value again of -4 minus 1. So I take my absolute value first, and it becomes 4 minus 1, which is 3. And those are your answers. And if you understand that, that's everything you need to know for 1.4.